PNC, America's Black News Channel. Watch us on all major cable providers and major streaming platforms. Finally, news that speaks to us.
Good evening, Black people and all allies fighting for Black liberation, Black prosperity, and Black joy. I'm Nayyera Haq in for Charles Blow. Welcome to Prime. 34 hours of testimony over 4 long days of highs and lows. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was finally able to close out her Supreme Court confirmation hearing experience. Democrats hope to confirm her by April 8th, before Easter recess. Jackson did not testify today, but character witnesses invited by Democrats and Republicans spoke up. Here's a member of the American Bar Association explaining why they fully back Jackson for the nation's highest court.
Everyone we talked to, interviewed, or had substantive contact with uniformly gave the highest praise: brilliant, beyond reproach, first-rate, patient, insightful, impeccable, A+. Representatives from every organization said again and again, humble, brilliant, consensus builder. The question we kept asking ourselves: how does one human being do so much, so extraordinarily well?
Jackson sat through hours of intense and often bizarre questioning this week. Republicans saying they would not turn the hearing into the circus, yet those senators showed up to put on a clown show.
You regret that we're focusing on your cases? I don't understand.
No. I'm talking about the fact that you're talking about
child pornography cases?
Very serious cases.
I'm glad we agree on that. Don't you think we should be focusing on
some of which. Can I explain why, sir?
I'm going to give the witness an opportunity to respond to you, Senator.
Finally. How's it being committed now?
Would she please
Go
let
ahead.
her complete her answer?
Go ahead.
In that chart.
Okay, Judge, you said that before. These are the 8 or 9 child porn cases. I will say, to correct the record,
I just say to the judge, there's no point in responding. He's going to interrupt you.
Thank you.
Look,
Women, Black women in particular, are all too familiar with the repeated interruptions Jackson faced from Republican lawmakers this week, and research backs up what we all experience. A recent study found that female Supreme Court nominees who appeared before the Judiciary Committee were interrupted twice as much as men. Minority nominees were interrupted more than white nominees. Republican witnesses continued to parrot the Republican Party line. One Republican witness, a young Black woman, constitutional lawyer, Keisha Russell.
Ultimately, we cannot expect someone who subscribes to critical race theory to defend and protect the Constitution, because CRT asserts that the Constitution is not worth defending. Such a view completely contradicts the oath every judge takes. Number 2, a judge who embraces critical race theory perspective that America must address racism by encouraging racism cannot be an impartial judge.
Joining me now to discuss is the senior editor of law and policy at Rewire Newsgroup and co-host of the podcast Boom, Lawyered, Imani Gandy, and chair of religious studies at the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Anthea Butler. Imani, I'd like to start with you. What were they trying to get done on the back of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson?
I think that they were trying to highlight her Blackness and present her Blackness as a threat to white families. I think that was the undercurrent of a lot of the questions. I think that was the undercurrent of Ted Cruz's questions about Dr. Kendi's books, about whether or not she thought babies were racist. I think that was the undercurrent of the questions regarding the culturally responsive teaching, right? The CRT that they're actually concerned about when they talk about critical race theory, but the culturally responsive teaching that goes on at Georgetown Day School. And I believe Judge Jackson is a board member of that school. Never mind that that's a private school, and whether or not there is any sort of CRT, whether it's critical race theory or culturally responsive teaching happening in a private school. Amy Coney Barrett is also on the board of a private school. But they were trying to present this woman as someone who potentially could be the cause for releasing child predators onto the street. So this hammering her of this small subset of her cases was just indicative, I think, of an effort to pander to the lowest of the low and to pander to white fear.
Dr. Butler, did Democrats rise to the challenge?
Unfortunately, not as much as I would have liked. I believe that Dick Durbin could have used his gavel a lot more. He could have controlled the session that he did not really control very well until he got personally exasperated. That's one. Number two, and I believe that people will disagree with me tonight, but I'm ready for that. I think, while Cory Booker really meant well, a lot of what he said needed not to be said. I mean, I think the allusions to Harriet Tubman and all of that were just overkill, frankly, and took away a little bit from the unique accomplishments that Judge Jackson had. And although that was a great moment to see a Black male senator take up for this Black female Supreme Court candidate, I think that could have been a lot shorter and a lot more powerful had he kept to the facts, first of all, about her responsibilities, the things that she did, and also how his fellow senators really messed up. And so there was that. I did not see the kind of robust support that I thought that she should have gotten from Democratic senators on that panel, except for perhaps, Cory Booker's attempt and Senator Hirono. I mean, I think the rest of them were just basically blasé and did not do what they needed to do in that session at all.
Well, they did what they tend to do in general, which is, try to respond to the vitriol with reason and logic. Imani, what was your reaction to the Democrats' performance?
Part of me agrees with Dr. Butler. I think that I enjoyed Cory Booker's speechifying, as it were, but I do agree that there wasn't any real purpose for it. Like, I much preferred, for example, Senator Ossoff's questioning, because he got to actual constitutional principles, talked about issues, while also being sure to remind the gallery of her accomplishments and of the obstacles that she clearly has had to overcome in order to get to where she is. I think generally the fact that, after Ted Cruz had his temper tantrum, Chris Coons just came in and started asking questions instead of really taking a moment to address the fact that here was a man who was attempting to unseal private probation records in furtherance of a lie, in furtherance of another big lie that somehow Judge Jackson has an affinity for criminality, has an affinity for child sex predators. So I would also have liked to see the Democrats step up a little bit more. By the same token, had they stepped up anymore, she would have been painted as weak. So it's 6 and 1/2, a dozen of the other.
Right. It's almost that there's no good position for her at this point other than to just deal with it. And that seems to consistently be the position that highly accomplished Black women get put in. Dr. Butler.
Yep, that's correct. I mean, been there, still doing that. And I think, for all of us, what is frustrating about this is that your accomplishments outweigh the people that you're actually asked to be a part of, or in this case, the Supreme Court. And then what you have to deal with are the people who are inferior to your intellect and to your moral core, and have to deal with them in such a way that means you have to be polite, you have to be kind, while they are throwing the vitriol and the thinly veiled, and very thinly veiled racism that happened in the past 2 days with the senators. So one of the things I felt really badly for her about was that this was not a celebration. When she gets to that court, it's going to feel like Little Rock all over again, because there's going to be a bunch of people who hate her, who are screaming. The rest of us love her and want to support her. And at the same time, she may find one of those seats at the Supreme Court to be very cold. I hope she has friends there, but given the reception that she got from some of the senators, I find that doubtful.
Imani, what do you make of the fact that the Republicans brought forward a young Black woman to speak against CRT as part of a character witness panel?
It's just more of the same. There was so much of this sort of idea that, well, Judge Jackson is Black, so she must know about all of these other Black people and all of the things that they are doing. So when they asked her about Dr. Kendi's book, when they mentioned Elie Mystal's suggestion, he's a justice correspondent for The Nation, he has suggested that we increase the number of members of the court to 10 or 20. They mentioned him again with respect to his new book where he calls the Constitution trash, and sort of expected her to answer for all of these other Black people. And so their answer to progressive Black people tends to be to find a conservative Black person and push them to the front in order to, frankly, tokenize them and speak through them. I thought it was an embarrassing display, quite frankly, because critical race theory doesn't demand that we doesn't hate the Constitution or whatever it was that she said. It doesn't demand that we, sort of wallow in the mire of racism. It merely asks to look at the way that racism affects institutions and how those institutions deal with race. It's not about personal responsibility or personal accountability, but over the last year, we've seen Republicans just stretch the meaning of critical race theory to be anything they don't like, anything that's woke, which generally translates into anything to do with Black people.
Dr. Butler, in the 1 minute we have together, I'll give you the closing thought. Who does this performance work for?
It works for all of the constituents that are Republican that are outside of the Washington, D.C. belt. They will be making commercials and sound bites of what they did. The talk about CRT and pedophilia and all that played to QAnon, and that's a very important part of this. And so what you have to know is that this performance, while it was meant to break down Judge Jackson, it was also meant to uplift the white men who wanted to stand on her neck, proverbially, to put forth their points so that they could win with their constituencies. And that's where we are. Everything is a political game, and it's entertainment for them. It is not about the serious business of vetting a Supreme Court nominee. It's about a soundbite and Twitter feeds. And that's where we are right now.
Anthea Butler, thank you for joining me tonight. Imani Gandy, you were going to stick around, and we'll see you again later in the show.